Hello friends, in Unit 3 we have been discussing commercial correspondence. We started with a brief introduction of commercial correspondence, then we followed it up with discussion on 4 C's of effective commercial correspondence. Then we talked about using email accounts. Then we moved over to the printed stationery which you use to send across letters in organizations. And then we also talked about the different parts of letter. And in the last session that we had, we talked about the various layouts, and we had a detailed discussion on the full block form, which I told you we'll be using because it is relatively simpler to understand and easier to retain. And now in the forthcoming sessions, whenever I'll be discussing some letters, I'll be using this particular layout only, right? Now have a look at the letter of inquiry. Now, what basically is a letter of inquiry? Please understand. If you want to seek some information, you want to inquire something, you make use of letter of inquiry, right? And many a times you may have to ask, you may have to inquire whether a particular product is available with your supplier because you want that particular product. So that is when you can use letter of inquiry. Or maybe when you want to inquire from your customer whether he would like to purchase a particular product. So that again is an example of letter of inquiry, right? So we'll be discussing 2 examples today basically, and since the forthcoming sessions also we'll be discussing different types of letter, let me make it very clear to you right in the beginning that now, since we have already taken up the different parts of letter, I would not be deliberating on, I would not be discussing the different parts. I would rather be discussing the content, the body of the letter, and how to write the body of the letter. So I would not be discussing the layouts. I would only be using the full block layout as I've told you, and I would not be discussing these different parts. I would only be talking about the body of the letter. Fine. So let us discuss this particular example. Here, let me tell you that this is the reference number, the date. Now please understand, this is the full block form. So everything has to be starting from the left extreme, and there should not be any gap from the left extreme, and that is what I am doing here. Reference number, then we've got the date, then we have the special marking. This could be a confidential letter, the name and the address of the receiver, then the subject line, then we have the salutation, and now we have the body of the letter, and then it is followed by the complimentary close, and then we have the name and the address of the sender, followed by the information regarding the individuals to whom the copy is being sent, right? So now let us start discussing the content of the letter, which is more important for you, since once you understand what are the different parts and what is the format, you can do it everywhere. But then you have to rephrase your body. You have to write the body for different letters in different fashions. So if the letter is meant as an inquiry letter, the body would be slightly different, the content would be slightly different. I mean to say, if it is a complaint letter, the content would be different. If it is a goodwill letter, again the content would be different. So our discussion would now focus on the content. Now have a look. Just by looking at this letter, now can you guess who is sending this letter? Who has sent this letter? Now this letter has been sent by Dr. Harshvardhan, who is the Cabinet Minister, Ministry of Health and Family Planning, the Government of India. And this is what has been mentioned here. Now please understand, these letters, they are all fictitious letters. They do not correspond to any reality. So don't think that this actually is a phone number of the Health Minister, right? So don't think like that. So this basically is the address of the sender and the name of the sender. And here if you have a look, this is the receiver. So the letter is meant for the manager of Pran Vayu Limited. And what is the subject? it is an inquiry letter and for supply of oxygen concentrators. So who is the supplier now? The supplier is basically Pranavayu, and Government of India wants to purchase oxygen concentrator. Why? Because you know that the second wave of COVID-19, which started somewhere in March, April, because of that there was huge requirement of oxygen concentrators, and probably this letter has been written somewhere around that only. So the date which has been given is 1st May. So the Government of India as a customer wants to find out from the supplier or from the potential supplier Pranavayu Limited whether they have the ability to supply oxygen concentrators. Now have a look at the body. Dear sir, now salutation, and now let's have a look at the body. This is to bring to your kind knowledge. I hope you remember courtesy, the 4th C. I have to be courteous whenever I am writing a letter. So rather than saying that Government of India requires this, we are saying this is to bring to your kind knowledge. Now it's not necessary that you phrase your sentence like this particular sentence only. You can have your own variations. You would like to bring to your kind knowledge? It gives us immense pleasure to let you know. Now this could be another way of writing the same thing but in a different context. Fine. So you can use as many variations as possible, whichever variation you like, but you have to be courteous. So this is to bring to your kind knowledge that the Government of India is planning to purchase 20,000 oxygen concentrators on an urgent basis. So we have also given the specifications of the concentrators, because oxygen concentrators may come in different shapes, sizes, variations. For example, a particular TV, if you want to purchase, there are so many variations. The screen size might be different. It could be a black and white or a color TV or an LED. So there are so many variations. So you have to be very, very specific. Fine. So they have specified model number, and they've probably also specified the capacity, so that the manager of Pranavayu Limited gets a clear idea as to which particular type of oxygen concentrator is required by the Government of India. Right? Now please understand, which C is this when I am specifying the type of model that I need? I hope you remember the 4 C's. Is it correctness? Is it clarity? Is it being concise, or is it the 4th C, courtesy? I hope you understand that this is clarity. I am making it very clear to him as to which kind of oxygen concentrators do I need. In fact, I can also replace this urgent basis with a particular date. I can say that India is planning to purchase these many oxygen concentrators by 10th of May to make it even more clear to the receiver as to what my requirements are. So this is the clarity element. Now would you be kind enough, again the courtesy element, would you be kind enough to let us know whether your firm would be able to supply these oxygen concentrators as per the aforementioned specification and quantity? So rather than telling the manager, can you provide these oxygen concentrators, I cannot write like this. I am saying, would you be kind enough to let me know, to let us know whether you can supply us these oxygen concentrators? So I am being more courteous, right? Now what do we mean by aforementioned? Which has been mentioned before. So aforementioned specification means the specification of the oxygen concentrator mentioned before, which is basically this one, model E type 2.5 LPM. And we are asking whether the firm Pranavayu would be able to supply these kind of oxygen concentrators. Plus I'm also asking whether what is the quantity in which they can supply us, right? In the event, now please have a look at this particular sentence, in the event that your firm expresses interest in supplying these machines, we shall be able to place a formal order with you at the earliest. So I'm telling Pranavayu Limited that if they feel that they can supply us these oxygen concentrators, we would be placing a formal order, because this is not an order, this is not a document which contains the order quantity. So we are just simply seeking information from them whether they can supply. If they say yes, then what we'll do, we'll place a formal order which will contain the number of units that we require, the delivery schedule, by which particular date we require it, and the various other conditions. Fine. So as of now, we are only seeking this information whether they have the ability to supply it to us and on an urgent basis. Right. So this is an example of a letter of inquiry. Later on, we'll also understand how to place orders, right? That we will be doing a little later in one of the forthcoming sessions. Fine. Now let's have another look at another example of a situation in which you use letter of inquiry. Now this is another example. Letter of inquiry. You have to seek information regarding a candidate who has applied for a job in your firm, and you just want to get more background information about him from his earlier employer. So a candidate has come to me, has applied for the job, I have found him suitable, but I just want to find out from his ex-employer with whom he has been working earlier, what kind of guy that particular person is. Should I appoint that particular person or not? Should I give him the appointment or not? So that is what I am seeking in this particular letter here. So have a look. Again, the letter has been written to the manager of Pranavayu Limited, and the letter this time has been written by the divisional head, Sales and Marketing, Hindustan Unilever Limited, Harsh Goenka. Again, all the information is fictitious. Now have a look. Inquiry letter regarding Mr. Raghu Shrestha. So probably Mr. Raghu Shrestha is a guy who has applied for a job in my firm, and I just want to know from his ex-employer Pranavayu as to what has been his performance in that particular company, right? So now Mr. Harsh Goenka is writing to the manager of Pranavayu. This is to bring to your, now this is the body of the letter. This is to bring to your kind knowledge that Mr. Raghu Shrestha, Mr. Kulbhushan Shrestha, Friends Colony, New Delhi, is currently being considered for the post of manager. So Mr. Raghu Shrestha is being considered for the post of manager in HUL, right? And I am mentioning all the details. Who is Mr. Raghu Shrestha? He is son of Mr. Kulbhushan Shrestha, and the address, so that there is no misunderstanding on the part of the Pranavayu manager, right? So now I have told him that we are planning to hire this particular individual, Mr. Raghu Shrestha, and Mr. Raghu Shrestha job application mentions that he has worked with your organization also as a sales executive from April 25th to October 15th. Now the job application of this particular candidate mentions that probably he has worked with HUL also, and that is why I have written this letter to the job application of Mr. Raghu Shrestha mentions that he has worked with Pranavayu also, and that is why I am writing to Pranavayu to let me know as to how he has been there, what has been his performance there, and how as an individual he has performed there, right? So I have given this background information to the manager, and now I have come to the main part of my request. Further, sir, we shall very much appreciate now use of a very courteous language. If you could also provide us a brief description of his performance during his tenure in the organization. So how has his been performance in the organization? And first thing that we have tried to find out from the Pranavayu Limited is that whether this particular information is correct, whether Mr. Raghu Shrestha has actually worked in your organization. So we have said, sir, would you be kind enough to verify this information that Mr. Raghu Shrestha has actually worked with your organization? And then we said, sir, would you be able to let us know as to how he has performed, because this will give me an idea of his performance, and this will help me in deciding whether or not to hire him. And now I have being more specific. We would specifically like to know whether, in your opinion, Mr. Raghu possesses the ability to effectively supervise a team of 5 sales executives, as would be required of him as a sales manager in our organization. So may we assure you, sir, of utmost confidentiality. Basically, I am seeking 3 pieces of information. Number 1, I am trying to verify whether Mr. Raghu Shrestha has actually worked with Pranavayu or not, as has been mentioned in his job application. Secondly, I want to know, now this is the first piece of information which I am seeking. Second is, I want to know how he has performed in your organization in Pranavayu Limited. And third, I want to know what, in the opinion of manager, does the manager of Pranavayu Limited think that he has the capability, Mr. Raghu Shrestha has the capability to manage a team of 5 sales executives who would be reporting to him, since he is being recruited for the post of sales manager. So does he have that capability? I want to find out. So here the third one is I'm trying to find out the opinion of the manager. First two are hard data which I'm trying to obtain from the manager of Pranavayu Limited, but the manager may not want to give us that data. That data may be leaked out. So what we are doing is we are also mentioning this. May we assure you, sir, of utmost confidentiality of your views in this regard, that we are not going to disclose your views. Whatever you tell us, we are not going to share it with any third party. So we are giving this commitment also, right? And fourth request which is there, we are also in a very polite manner, in a very, very courteous manner, what we are doing, we are telling the manager of Pranavayu, sir, please hurry up. But we cannot say it like that. So we are saying, sir, early response shall be highly appreciated. Means we are saying, sir, kindly please respond as fast as possible. So we are saying it in a courteous manner, and early response shall be highly appreciated. So this is where courtesy comes in. Fine. I hope you understand that giving this information, Mr. Kulbhushan Shrestha, father's name and the address is example of clarity. So the Pranavayu manager gets to know as to which particular employee we are talking about, right? And we are being very concise also. Within a particular page we have finished our letter. So this particular letter contains all the elements of effective commercial correspondence also. So thank you very much for your time. And in the forthcoming sessions we will be discussing complaint letter.